talked a bit about this in some of your podcasts, but what was the experience like when you found out that you had anosmia or that you thought you had anosmia? What was the response by your doctor when you told them this?
Yeah, great question. So for me, it was really isolating and very lonely. I felt like I was the only person in the world who had this condition. I didn't know the word anosmia for quite a while. I can't remember actually if my doctors mentioned it to me or if I finally figured it out on Google by myself, but I didn't even know that the condition had a name. I was very unprepared looking back for how having long-term smell dysfunction would affect every facet of my life for the rest of my life. When I first became anosmic, I started off by going to my primary care physician, and they couldn't really see that there was like a specific problem that could be causing the loss of the sense of smell. So I was prescribed nasal steroids to see if perhaps I had like some allergies or some inflammation in my nose. The nasal steroids could help. So I did that for, I think, a couple of months, honestly, before I went back. And I reported back to say my sense of smell isn't improving. I still can't smell anything. I was then referred to an ear, nose, and throat specialist or an otolaryngologist. They specialize in your nose, your throat, your ears. And that person was, they were helpful, like explaining that this was like a condition that probably it would come back. I would get my sense of smell back. They did more tests on me. So looking at my nose with like a nasal endoscopy to make sure I didn't have any polyps, anything that could be fixed surgically. And I was prescribed to continue with the nasal steroids because my nose was a little bit inflamed looking. And so they thought, hey, it can't hurt, right? Might as well continue to take these nasal steroids for a little while longer and see if with consistency that will improve, reduce the inflammation and improve your sense of smell. So a couple more months on those, and that did not help. So when I went back to the ear, nose, and throat specialist again, I believe between the ear, nose, and throat and the neurologist who I was referred to next, I was given a CT scan and an MRI, and I don't remember at what point that happened. So I don't know if it was the ENT who did that or if it was the neurologist who did that because I don't have my records anymore. It's been such a long time. But I did get a CT and an MRI. They confirmed that I did have an olfactory bulb. So I did have like the equipment to be able to smell, which is like, of course, I knew that since I grew up with a sense of smell. But they couldn't identify or isolate anything that was causing me to not have one. So that was kind of good news, right? I didn't have a brain tumor. That was excellent, but it still didn't solve the issue of what was going on. So throughout all of that, there was really not any information shared with me about how this would affect me for the rest of my life. My last appointment with a neurologist, I remember checking out with the receptionist as you do when you leave the doctor's office and them saying like, "Okay, well you can pay your copay and you don't need to book another appointment." Like insert shoulder shrug emoji, right? Like that was it. There was nothing else about like support or anything offered to me. Just make sure you pay your bill and goodbye.